Hi there. So now that we've got the core roughing out of the way, let's take a look at starting some of the cleanup of the flat surfaces. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to instantiate a new group because we want to keep this nice and tidy. So let's go with group and we'll call this one flats cleanup. And first things first, let's take off some of the rough stuff of this face, shall we? So I'm going to go with a 2D contouring operation. And I'm going to use the same tool that we did before. So the 10mm end mill, because it's good for this sort of thing. And let's rotate this 90 degrees. And I think we should probably take that long sweep there. So that curve is going to be our job assignment curve. And we want to make sure that it's compensated and compensated in the correct direction. Okay, so in case you didn't see it, the clicking was over here. So that's compensation, and that is the orientation in which the compensation occurs. Just so you don't get caught out, this has got 4 potential options, so just cycle through them and you'll be fine. We now need to go to strategy and we need to change the depth of the cut. So I am going, no, not the depth of the cut, my apologies. I am going to set the top level and bottom level. So I'm going to pan around to the front for now, just so we can see where it is we need to be. So 31 looks like a good starting point. Let's just scrub off the 0.002 because it's a little bit fussy. And for the bottom level, I'm not going to have it go all the way down because that will cut these lobes off, which will be kind of useless to us. So I'm going to have it stop at 21, which should bring us to this plane nicely. And it'll preserve any detailing that we have here for things like filleting and so forth. I'm also going to turn on helical machining just to be able to sweep stuff away cleanly. I tend to assume that whatever mill I'm working with needs to be babied a little bit. I mean, obviously, it's just good practice to treat it a little bit more gently than it needs to be treated until you're absolutely used to the machine, I've found. And, well, that's what I'm basing this on. So, we're now going to generate this toolpath. And as you can see, we've got a rather nice zigzag toolpath there that works its way down progressively with no plunge cuts or anything. And I think we should simulate this at this point. So let's click run. Wow, that went fast. My apologies. So let's quickly try that again with a slightly slower run. And yep, that's pretty much doing exactly what we thought it would do. So it's a nice progressive cut down to our final level, and it's trimming away the material perfectly. So we're going to copy that out again. So we're going to go back into the transformations menu, and we're going to multiply that toolpath around the A-axis with a multiply step of 180 and a multiply count of 2. So let's regenerate that, and both of these sides will now get trimmed. Perfect. We'll just quickly resim that just to be safe. Run. Since we know this side's already good, we're not going to bother resetting that. There we go. Absolutely perfect. Couldn't have asked for better. That absolutely is what we need. So, going back into machining now, I would like us to take a look at scrubbing this face off. And we're going to use a finishing plane for that, I think, since we've already got most of the roughing done there. So we go to 3D entry, and we go to finishing plane. Now we need to be a little bit clever with the job assignment here. So I'm going to assign this face, and I am also going to use yeah, I'm going to use this curve as the job assignment zone. So I double clicked on this edge and it's not quite done it perfectly evenly. So we've got this little extra bit here on this side, which we don't really want. So I'm going to hold down Control and click on there to remove that. And I'm now going to hold Shift and click on there to include this because I'd like to set that as my job zone. I'm now going to take a look in strategy and I would like to set my cutting direction to be across instead of along. So we change the angle to 90 degrees. Top level does not need to be 30. It can be a lot lower than that. So yeah, we want our bottom level to be 20 and there's like 1mm of material. So I'm going to set that to 21. I'm also going to change the tool back to the end mill. I mean, it's nice that it tries to default to a ball mill, but it's not really relevant to our needs right now. So select that tool for the operation. And I think that should be a good start. So if we quickly generate this toolpath, now interesting, we can see that it's a little bit limited in the amount of scope that it's actually covering. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on hole capping because I want it to cover across this. So let's regenerate that and capping as well. Nope, okay. Well, that's immaterial anyway, because we're going to be boring that out in the next part. The next thing I'd like to do is under links, I would like to engage by horizontal and retract by horizontal. So let's generate the toolpath and we can see we've got a slightly longer sweep there now. It is technically using links instead of normal feed rate operations, which we could do by grabbing this exterior curve and offsetting it out, but this is a bit more expedient. Now we do have an issue. It's complaining about the ramp angle being too high. Realistically, given that we are going to be touching down in this, but it's a very small amount of material, and I'm going to assume that we've got the right kind of end mill to be able to do slotting operations like that. I'm not super fussed about it. So for the sake of argument, I'm going to go into parameters and I'm going to turn off check for plunges because it's not super concerning to me. So we regenerate that toolpath now. That comes up nice and happy. I'm going to go to simulation and let's take a look at what it does. Whoop, slow down a bit. Yes, it does touch down straight in there, but again, it's taking out a single millimeter of material, which is absolutely nothing compared to the actual size of the end mill anyway. So if we let that run through, that should give us a nice, excuse me, a nice and clean face, which it certainly seems to be doing. And I would say that I'm quite happy with that generally. Yeah, I think that looks good. So the next thing that we need to do is we've got another contouring operation that we want to do. We want to take off this face here. So we're going to go with another 2D contouring op. And again, we're going to reset the tool to the end mill that we've been working with because we want the sharp edge. And I'm going to turn this by 90 degrees. Oh, no, before I do so, you never guess what I forgot. In the finishing plane, we need to apply the transformation again, because otherwise we're going to have an unfinished lobe. So we're going to go to the A position, 180, and 2. Can't be missing that now, can we? Sorry, that will come up. That's just telling me to slow down a little bit. So, yep, that's all done now. Great. So 2D contouring now. So we're going to rotate this back to 0. And for the job assignments, there is a curve in the geometry right there, which is a little bit hard to see with this color scheme, but it's not the end of the world. We can always turn off machining results to actually see these a little bit more clearly. But I tend to leave that on just so I know exactly what it is we're dealing with. And I'm going to set that as my curve, and we are going to make sure that the compensation's on and that it's offset in the correct direction, and that generally looks good. I'm also going to change the top and bottom levels on this. So 55 is where it's engaging up here. That's fine. We don't want it going all the way down. We want it stopping around here. So if we snap around to the front, at a guess, I'm going to say 25 is probably, it is actually the correct height. That's exactly what we need. How convenient. So I'm going to set that, and we're going to enable helical machining again, and we're going to generate that toolpath for the moment. So I'm going to simulate this now, and we shall take a look at how the operation comes up. So yeah, as we can see here, that's a nice and clean and smooth helical descent there, which gives us exactly what we need to be able to get a nice clean transition into that filleted part on a future operation. So we'll go back into machining, and we won't forget the transformation this time. So multiply a 180 and 2 and generate. Now finally, we've got one more operation that we need to do in this particular set at the moment. And again, this leans on the assertion that I made earlier about how we've got an end mill that's capable of doing slotting operations. And this one's going to be hole machining. So we will change that back from a drill because we want to try and minimize tool usage here. And we're going to set this to 90 degrees again. And we are going to grab that hole there, and we're going to create a drilling up from there. So we just click on OK for now. Interesting, it's done it from the wrong spot. So we may actually have to grab the walls of the hole instead. And we try that. We click on OK. And no, again, it's doing that, which is a little bit strange. Right. So instead of create, which is asking us to define one from scratch, which I do know, I have no idea why I missed that. I apologize. But I do believe it's important to keep one's mistakes in view for these things as well. We actually want to click on center, not create. Sorry, slightly horrible throat this morning. I do apologize. So I'm going to click on the center now, and we can see now how it's grabbed the center faces here, which is great. So I'm going to go back into this setting now, and we can see how it's got a diameter of 12 and a height of 10, and the Z max is 20, and the Z min is 10. However, I tend to be a bit fussy when it comes to cutting holes, and if I can cut a little bit too deep on a through hole, I will, just to make absolutely certain there's no nasty burrs or swarf left on there. So I'm going to set the Z min to 9 and click on OK. I now want to change the strategy from simple drilling to hole pocketing, because it's a 12mm hole with a 10mm end mill. And I'm going to click on generate, and we can see now we've got that lovely tight spiral going down and going all the way through right through to the base of the raw stock material that's left over from the initial cuts. So again, we're going to simulate this just to make sure it's doing exactly what we're expecting it to do. And yeah, we've got a lovely helical path there, doing a really nice little bit of cleanup. It's not taking very deep cuts, but yeah, that's absolutely fine for the sake of this demonstration. Obviously, you'll tune your approach according to the materials and the machine that you're working with. You guys know your kit best. But for the sake of demonstration, that's a very, very quick and easy hole that's bored through now. So again, we are going to apply the transformation. So y-axis 180 and 2, and we're going to regenerate that. And I'm going to very quickly cycle through all of these just to make sure that we're totally happy with the end result, which I think we should be. So let's reset and simulate up to the current operation, and we'll just let it work its way through. Make sure there's no nasty surprises there. But all in at the moment, things are looking positive. So that's our face cleanup. And give it a second. It's going to zap through this. This is the longest bit, obviously. And there we go. We're going to go through the second set of flat cleanups. And then the hole boring. And again the hole boring. So I'm going to use verify compare at this point to make sure that we're hitting the correct depths, and yes, that's looking good. Green is obviously what we're looking for with this. There's the barest suggestion of yellow on the bore, but it's minuscule. Obviously you can tighten up your tolerances if you're particularly concerned by it, but as I say, for the sake of demonstration, we're mainly going through how the operations work here. So I'm going to turn that back off, and in the next video we will continue. See you then.